Today's topic is all about why it is time for us as Black women to realize that we have the power to not have to sit around and wait for people to make space for us, wait for people to let us into their world. We can create our own space, create our own world, create our own reality. Okay? If you are new to my channel, hello. My name is Valerie Walton, and I have been an entrepreneur for my entire adult life. I have been an online entrepreneur specifically for the past 11 years now. So it's been very fun, very exciting, and I just love living a life that is not the norm. And who knows, maybe that is exactly what you've been looking for, and it's time to be set free, honey. So I like to take the fact that the grace of God will actually help you in every area of your life, and that includes creating freedom through business. And I've definitely found so much more than I ever thought that I would, thanks to not only starting my business, but especially once I started my online business. So the passage from Ephesians 3:20, that God will do exceedingly abundantly above all that you could ever ask or think. Child, listen, I'm living proof of that. I wasn't going to make a video about this. I was really contemplating going back and forth because I don't want to turn this into a political thing, but I definitely want to just be honest about some of the reasons why it is so important for us, especially as women, especially as Black women, to go ahead and start that business and then consider some other global options. All right. So, like I said, I had been contemplating whether or not I was going to bring up this particular person as an example, but I am. And that is former Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, let's talk about why I decided to use Kamala Harris as an example, or as part of the topic for what I'm trying to get across in this video. Okay. And that is that it's really not just about Kamala Harris. It's really not just about being a Black woman. It's, remember, the point of my video is to get you to start thinking about the fact that if you have been finding it difficult, exhausting, unfair, to have to find how you can get a place at the table, to try to find or wait around for someone to invite you into the party and into the space, then maybe it's time for you to start your own party, start your own space, build your own house, do your own thing. Accept yourself. Especially if you're a believer, you've already been accepted by God Himself. You don't need to be worried about nobody else, including the other guy. Now, when it comes to the vice president, the former vice president, there were so many things that went on with that election that, as a Black woman, probably made you really start thinking some things. And you're looking around like, what? And I know, even if you're not a Black woman and you are watching from somewhere else in the world, anywhere that's not the United States, you have probably asked an American, if you came across an American, you've probably asked them about this. So I'm going to shed some light on it, speaking as an American myself. All right. So a lot of folks were wondering, why the heck didn't she win? How in the world did the other guy win? And what does that mean for us as Black women business owners? What does that mean? Hmm, hmm, hmm. So we're going to dive into it because I'm going to go super duper deep because that's just how I am, who I am, and what I do. Chef, do I even want to? Ooh. I'm going to save that for the end, Chef. All right. So let's start with why so many of us, right? 92% of Black women voted for her. Okay. And I think that 8% margin, if I'm not mistaken, was probably people that just didn't vote at all. Like, I highly doubt that there were very many Black women that voted for the other guy. Okay. Maybe one. And I think y'all know her name. Anyway, it wasn't me, child. Anyway, so here's some things about. Okay, so I think one of the issues is the fact that so many of us were under the impression that we had this idea of what people were looking for in a presidential candidate. So I know a lot of people look at presidential elections, they look at politics, period, and they're just kind of like, you know what? I don't want to vote for somebody that screams politician to me or reminds me of a politician because politicians are liars and cheats and all of that. But the way that I look at it is like here in America, that's kind of hard to just go around saying because the way we set up supposedly as a system is that this is by the people, for the people, by the people, all that, right? So if that's the case, then that means that these politicians are citizens just like we are, and so to look at that, I get when people say, "Oh, I want the little guy to get into the race. I want a regular person to get into the race." And the rest of these folks, these politicians have been lifelong politicians. But I mean, come on, we got to give them a little bit of credit for a second. For a second, let's give them a little bit of credit because you need to know how this government works if you go and run it. You ever try to run a washing machine and you don't know how it works? And then all the suds come bubbling out the machine and the joint shaking and moving around. I don't think you want that. So it's a similar situation here. You want people that's gonna run things, operate things to actually know what they're doing. And so yes, I want somebody who has gone and studied political science. Yes, I want somebody who understands the Constitution. Yes, I want somebody who knows what's in the Constitution. Yes, I and I can say that. Listen, I grew up in a household where both my parents were very serious about the law. My dad was a cop. My mom was a court transcriber, so she was all up in. She didn't physically go into the courtrooms. They would record it and send it to her, so she worked from home. And that was actually the first signs of working from home, or the first visuals of that I had ever seen. And I thought that was so cool. But I can talk more about that in another video. Anyway, so growing up in a household like that, yeah, we need to know the law. My dad knew the preamble to the Constitution by heart. He could quote it. And so, to me, that's what patriotism looked like. It was, in order for you to be able to love your country, you need to know your country. And as Black people, we have such a complicated relationship with how we move and operate as citizens within this country, and how we view it and how we feel about it. It's complex. And so, yeah, as somebody who grew up believing certain things about the country, that once I grew up, I looked around and I was like, oh, that was propaganda. Some things are great and wonderful, but some things are like, oh, hold on a second. So when you look at things like that, I get it. Now, when it comes to her qualifications, I'm trying to get through like some of these. So she's done actual jobs that touch the presidency. This wasn't somebody who was on a reality show who has failed at multiple businesses. I haven't failed at any businesses. Anyway, so she was a local executive and public safety leadership. She was involved in that. So she was elected, okay, elected the district attorney of San Francisco. Let's see, statewide executive leadership is another qualification. She was elected attorney general of California. She's had federal legislative experience as a U.S. senator, federal executive leadership experience as vice president, right? She has both the law brain and the executive spine. So she has that prosecutorial background. Among all the things that she's done, she's got direct experience with crime, fraud, consumer protection, and civil rights enforcement through a lot of it also through her attorney general portfolio. So when you're looking at that and you think, do I want someone who fights crime or someone who commits crime? Which one do I want? Oh, goodness, it's a tough decision. And then we wonder why the rest of the world is looking at us like this. Like, what happened? Are y'all serious? Exactly. So as she was in some of these roles and positions, I'm gonna cover just a couple of things that she actually accomplished. She launched and led a reentry initiative, right, called Back on Track, which focused on reducing. Uh, well, you know what? I'm gonna skip that part. You want to know what it is? Go look it up. Um, she took a harder stance in mortgage negotiations and pushed for stronger homeowner protections. Hello, and that was during the foreclosure crisis era. She announced and led enforcement actions and settlements with major institutions like the Wells Fargo settlement that was tied to privacy and consumer issues. So all of that stuff really great. As vice president, she set a record for tie-breaking votes in the Senate, which means she was actually doing her job as vice president. And she led the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. So one of the reasons why people argue that she was so unusually qualified, I think the only other um, highly qualified candidate was another woman. I'll just say it like that. Anyway, what really stuck out for me that was like, see, that's somebody that's looking out for the little guy, the regular folk, is the fact that when the mortgage crisis happened, as the California Attorney General, she announced multiple major settlements tied to mortgage or servicing and securities misconduct. So $18 billion California commitment in the national mortgage settlement era for homeowner relief, 300 million JP Morgan settlement over mortgage-backed securities and misrepresentations that was affecting California. There's more, and it's so much that I can't, like, come on, I can't even. Okay. Of course, there's also the historic first, but that's really more of a sentimental thing, which I wasn't really focusing on. But I did want somebody with some class. That would have been nice. Somebody like me that represents the educated, intelligent, capable Black woman, because we are overlooked a lot of times. Probably need to do another video for that topic alone. um, Now, some people will say, because I have to be fair, some people will say that the real reason why she didn't win, and my video is going to be irrelevant because the real reason she didn't win was because a big share of voters ranked that the economy slash inflation was their top issue. Okay. And I do understand people vote for their pain, right? They vote their pain point issue is what they focus on the most. I get that. But if the economy and things dealing with money is the issue, this woman helped put money back into the hands of the homeowners that were being scammed, that were being taken advantage of during one of the most difficult times in American history. And you wouldn't pick her for the economy? You want to pick the person with concepts of a plan? Oh, okay. How's that working out right now? We were more concerned about eggs than our homes? And who had the track record for helping people with that? Okay. Anyway, child, another issue people mention is immigration and border politics. Okay. I was born in 1980. And as I was growing up, I can distinctly recall as a child growing up with the sounds of America saying we are a nation of immigrants. We're proud of that. Immigrants, immigrants, immigrants. And I know some folks are gonna be like, well, Val, we ain't talking about it like that. Like, yeah, you can move to another country if you want. But I'm talking about, like, you know, these illegals. And so another thing that we also have to understand is dog whistle politics. We know what is meant when people say illegal immigrants, and they don't actually mean illegal immigrants, because there are illegal immigrants that are blonde haired and blue eyed, but that ain't who they talking about, right? They're talking about folks that don't look like that, whether they're illegal or not. You just look like you don't belong here and you gotta go. And I'm like, just say that. Just say that. But this nation has never been a nation with a history of telling the truth and standing in honor and dignity and treating people fairly. Moving on. so um so I think one of the things so I think although people can say that, and the fact that that sounds good, right? These are the things that you're saying, on stage at the podium, but backstage, what you're really saying is something else, right? You say something out in public, but in your house behind closed doors, you're saying something else. And honestly, even in public they're saying it, but like I said, it's more of a dog whistle. It's the things that, if you don't have the ear for it, right, if you don't understand the history of Black America, and I'm not talking about Nicki Minaj Black, right, I'm not talking about Caribbean Black, I'm not talking about uh Latinos and Latinas, I'm talking about the daughters of the diaspora. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who are of African descent that was brought over during the Middle Passage to the United States of America and gone through not just slavery, but slavery in a systematized, institutionalized way that was so brutal, so inhumane. The likes of it has never been seen before. So even though you might have been a slave not too far from us, or your descendant, your ancestors might have been um, slaves not too far from my ancestors, it was not the same treatment. It was not the same experience. And so, although we can relate on that topic, we also have differences on that topic. The brown skin, what did they say? All skin folk ain't kin folk. Unfortunately, that is true. So I am referring to that. Okay. Now, when it comes to that, um, there was a lot of coded language, right? The dog whistles that I could clearly pick up on when, after the election, I mean, before too, but it really came out after the election when it was clear that she did not win the electoral votes. And, people were being asked why did you not vote for her? And I kept seeing these answers of, oh, I didn't vote for her because she just didn't seem genuine to me. Black ladies, we know what that means, right? Because I'm about to unpack it. Okay. Not seeming genuine is the whole reason why I'm doing this video. This whole idea of you don't you don't look like what I assigned a Black woman to look like, what I decided you should be, what I've been told, and I just choose to believe it, whether it's true or not, about Black women. And if you don't fit that, then you're not a real Black woman. If you're not angry, if you're not a video vixen, if you're not promiscuous with a bunch of baby daddies, if you're not a single mom, if you're not like, need I go on? It's very interesting when people say, "Oh, she didn't seem genuine to me. What's she laughing for?" Because we're known for going through the struggle. Even amongst ourselves, it's something we joke about. Movies are made about it. It's rare you get to see us as the Dominique Devereaux, right? And even with that was a whole, now you got to be a bitch to be wealthy, right? So that's a little crazy. But anyway, so I'm gonna dive into that. This she's not genuine kind of translate to, oh, if you're polished and poised, then you're fake. Black women don't know how to do that, right? I've never seen one act like that, right? um, If you're passionate about something, that means you're angry. If you're joyful about something, you're annoying. Or in her case, cackling. Why can't I have my joy? Oh, I forgot. You thought I was supposed to be struggling. And if you're calm about things and you're at peace with things, then you're cold. Something must be wrong with you. Right? So if you're not getting all worked up, right? And this pattern fits misogynoir, right? Where competence doesn't protect you. It doesn't protect you from being sexualized or mocked or put in your place. And I think that people make statements with their vote. A lot of times, that is the statement. Ha, I'll show you with my vote. Sad but true. So, another note that I wanted to point out is that these attacks weren't just policy critiques, right? This was identity coded, stereotype driven um, attacks, right? Including she slept her way to the top. How the hell do you sleep your way into an elected position? To this day, ain't nobody been able to answer that question to me. And when you ask somebody that claims to believe that about her, they say, I don't know, she just did it. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the Jezebel trope. It's the sexual delegitimization, right? She didn't earn that. Or like what Charlie Kirk was talking about, Black women don't even have the capacity. Yes, the hell we do. And it's proven throughout history with all the crap that we have put up with. Go look at Sally Hemings. This woman, this was not a love story between her and Thomas Jefferson. Let's stop it. He was significantly older than this young lady who was, from what I understand, she was either uh, a teenager going into her early 20s. But regardless, it wasn't like she had a choice. And yet, that scandal has been so romanticized, fetishized, and it's disgusting. I can't stand to hear people talk about that. And then what's worse is for generations, Sally Hemings' descendants have been saying, we are descendants of Thomas Jefferson. We trying to tell y'all. They don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe but see, people that were descendants of Jefferson, direct descendants from Jefferson that looked like him, knew it was true. They didn't want to admit it. Thank God for DNA. But unfortunately, that's the stuff that we have to go through. You gotta go through blood, sweat, and tears sometimes before you're able to prove yourself to people. And on levels of standards that is not for everybody else, especially when you're Black and especially when you're a Black woman. Have we made progress in America? Yes and no. I'm going to honestly say yes and no, because of the way the system is set up, the way the government is set up. Things will teeter totter back and forth. So sometimes when you think you've made progress, the next administration will come in and roll it back. Look at how long they fooled us with civil rights. They claim we're all free now, we're all equal now. What's the problem? What you crying about? What you whining about? What you complaining about? There would be nothing to complain about if it were true. And it would be great if we didn't have to go through as much strife as we did just to be able to have on paper the freedom. Dogs getting sick on you? Attack dogs. Police attack dogs. Fire hoses? Fire hoses. Do you know how much water pressure comes out of a fire hose? Ripping people's clothes off their bodies, burning their skin, because I wanted to eat next to you at the lunch counter and not have a problem. Like, I don't know you. I'm just sitting here and you're sitting there. Coffee poured on you, ketchup poured on you, spit in your face. Because I want to be able to come and sit down in a restaurant and do it with this skin. That's ridiculous. And America was behaving like that just one generation ago because my parents went through it. They grew up in, they were born in the early 40s and early 50s. So they grew up in the 50s and 60s. So, and then I was born in 1980. So it was one generation ago. One. So don't give me them black and white pictures like it's supposed to have been 200 years ago, 1,000 years. Child. Anyway. What with this? Um, but yeah, whatever anybody thinks about her dating history, you cannot sleep your way into multiple statewide and federal elected positions. Um, the I don't like her laugh or her cackle. Again, it is in fact policing black women's joy. It's enforcing a be smaller, be quieter, be less rule. You have the audacity to think that you could have this position as leader of the free world, president of the United States of America? I mean, we know that behind the scenes, we'll never admit it, but behind the scenes, you were the one that was having everything built on your back. You having to stand there and watch your husband get the skin beat off his back. You having to stand there, and after 9 months of carrying a child, that it gets ripped out of your arms and sent away and you never see it again. You're the one that's got to do the cooking and the cleaning and being in the field and being SA'd on a regular basis. You're the one that has to endure all of these things and so much more while quite literally building America, if not the agriculture, the buildings. and raising these children that ain't yours. Child, listen, it's policing, it's giving policing. And what's crazy is the fact that these same critics will turn around and say if she wasn't visibly happy, they'd be like, what's wrong with her? She's so bitter, she's so cold, she's the angry black woman. And now she's showcasing the exact opposite of angry black woman. She's joyful and she's proud of what she does, and she's honored to do what she does and be in service to the community and to the country. And that's cackling. Moving on. Again, the whole she wasn't authentic or likable, that was black women who were expected to be warm but not powerful, confident but not arrogant, and polished but not fake, right? But they defined what fake was. And then the whole thing, she's not even black. I mean, how many times does the other guy have to do all of this mess? She's not black. He's not American. Where's his birth certificate? Right? And it's screaming, I get to control, I get to control you and your identity. I get to say who you are. I get to say whether you're American or not. I get to say whether you're black or not, you know? And mind you, this woman attended and graduated from an HBCU. In case you didn't know what that stands for, it's historically black colleges and universities. Historically black. So I think she's known for a while now. She's black. And it was ridiculous. And something else that happened was when the other guy was on stage, I think it was for like a not a press conference. It was some kind of black women's news function, I think, something like that. And they had him on, and when he started saying all of that foolishness, what got dubbed out in edits that we later see is that those black women stood up to her defense and said, "Oh, no, 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 you can't say that. Like, come on." And he just kept going anyway. And so their objections to what he was saying got edited out. So it's insane. It is insane. And it's almost that saying, you can't win for losing. It doesn't matter what it is that you try to do. Um, and I can understand that women, especially black women, can find it difficult to be able to not only find your voice, but then be able to feel the courage to stand up and use your voice for something that will be powerful and impactful. But let's not forget, we are the natural born leaders. And then you sprinkle a little skill on top of that, and we are unstoppable. And that's one of the reasons why I love to help black women start and run businesses so much. We have this uncanny ability, like it's supernatural. It feels and looks supernatural sometimes, Jim. If you really believe, you know what? I don't know if I need to do all of that. Do I really need to start thinking about possibly having other global options and maybe, picking up the torch from my ancestors and everything that they put in just to survive, and now take that torch and go thrive and do it in a very symbolic way. Do it in a way that I get to do what they didn't get to do, leave the country. They got dragged all the way over here, but I get to stand and step with dignity, walking my way out of here. My choice. So if you think, well, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I can just build the wealth here and I'll be fine. Everything will be okay. We've tried that. Been there, done that. We did this 100 years ago and more. We tried it. When they promised us one thing and then they lied about it, right? Or they gave us a little bit and then they took all of that back during Reconstruction. Hello. Share, the whole story about that is crazy. So when you add it all up, Black America has had about a good 14 years of freedom total. And then everything else was structured to be institutionalized, systemized ways of control. If you don't believe me, didn't I tell you I got receipts? Check this out. Because I want you to see that it's bigger than just the one election. It's bigger than just Kamala. And it's bigger than just you. I want you to start thinking about a legacy. And I want you to think about the fact that this has already been done before. We have tried. We were making some momentum and some progress. And then everything got burned down to the ground, literally. Here's some examples. Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898. Memphis, Tennessee in 1866, New Orleans, Louisiana in 1866, Colfax, Louisiana in 1873, Atlanta, Georgia in 1906, Springfield, Illinois in 1908, East St. Louis, Illinois in 1917, Chicago, Illinois in 1919, Washington, D.C. in 1919, Knoxville, Tennessee in 1919, Omaha, Nebraska in 1919, Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, Ocoee, Florida, I can't even pronounce it, in 1920, Rosewood, Florida in 1923, and Detroit, Michigan in 1943. That was an entire year after my father was born. It's still going on. And what was going on? Race riots, violence, massacres, expulsions, Red Summer violence. Here, and if that weren't enough, here's some more. These were towns that were burned down by policy. So things like highways being built, urban renewal, which dismantled Black wealth hubs. Here we go. Miami, Florida. Overton, New Orleans, Louisiana, Treme and Claiborne Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota, Rondo, I-94, Syracuse, New York, 15th Ward, I-81, Nashville, Tennessee, I-40, Durham, North Carolina, NC-147, the Durham Freeway, Richmond, Virginia, I-95 and I-64, Charlotte, North Carolina, the Brooklyn neighborhood, Cincinnati, Ohio, West End, Detroit, Michigan, Black Bottom and Paradise Valley, Tampa, Florida, Central Avenue, which is I-275 impacts, Baltimore, the highway to nowhere, I-170, Atlanta, Georgia, Sweet Auburn area, St. Louis, Missouri, Mill Creek Valley, Portland, Oregon, I-5, Oakland, California, West Oakland, the Cypress Freeway, I-880, I-980. San Francisco, California, Fillmore, Western Edition. Montgomery, Alabama, black neighborhoods affected by interstate routing. Civil rights leaders had cited this historically. So this is why I'm saying space isn't being made for you because it was never intended to be for you. So ain't no space gonna be made. And why bother losing your peace just to get a place or a position that's only going to be temporary anyway, when you instead can create your own position, your own place, and live in your peace and operate in your peace? Why not do that instead? Why do we have to keep fighting for basic rights or the basic need to be seen as a human being? At best, we were seeing it as 3/5 human. And that's documented. And we still sitting here like, no, this is our country too. It is only our country by default. We're only citizens by default. Nobody said, my apologies. Let's fix this. We should have never done this. You will never hear them say that. You know what you hear them say instead? Oh, well, I mean, it was so long ago. I mean, I don't even know what could be done. What could be done when somebody's doing a ton of work and you never paid them for it? That's not fair. What could be fair? Could we start with paying them? And they want to say, well, that was a long time ago. Everybody did. How would we pay them? Okay. Well, you know what happened in Second Kings. The woman had a debt that she had to pay, or else her sons were going into slavery. What if that happened here? That'd be insane, wouldn't it? Pay us what you owe us. B better have my money. Or we taking your sons. But I think that's what a lot of them are afraid of. And that ain't what we're trying to do. We just at least acknowledge it. At least acknowledge it. We'll get to the apology part later. Can you acknowledge it? A lot of folks don't want to do that. And so this is why I'm saying to you, beautiful black woman, we've had enough. We have endured enough. We have had to live through enough. We have experienced enough of the things we don't want. Do you realize that there are other places in this world, other countries, where if you earn and then gather up your American dollars, take it and go create the life that you want, full of wealth and legacy in another country? It's the least America can do. It truly is the least that they could do. Okay? They ain't even trying to pay for our DNA test. That'd be nice. It's their fault. We don't know exactly specifically where we came from, and we can't trace our family back 14 generations like they can. Can you at least pay the $200 for the test? No, of course not. They don't want to. They don't want to because they don't feel bad about it. They're proud. What are you going to do with a situation like that? I tell you what you can do. Look at your options and make new choices and possibly create a new beginning for yourself and your family. You could be just like the widow, right? I want you to take yourself, black woman just like me, and let's put ourselves in the place, in the shoes of that widow, because we've probably been there. You've been in a situation where you might be going through something through no fault of your own, right? It's not your fault, but you're in that position, and you got to do something quick with your finances. You got to figure something out, whether it's to help out your kids, your husband, yourself, right? So you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm a believer. I know that I'm not alone in this, but I can't quite figure out what I should do and what God wants me to do. So what's that? Well, if you are anything like the widow went to the man of God, Elisha, and said, I need some help. Listen, not my fault that I'm in debt. My husband passed away with all this debt, and now I'm responsible for it. What can I do? Like, How can you help me here? Now, here's what's interesting about Elisha. He did not give her a handout. He did not go into his wallet. He didn't give her any cash and say, here you go pay for off that debt. He didn't do that. He said, what's already in your house? What do you already have in your house? And that's the beautiful thing about the Lord. Do you realize, have you stopped for a moment to realize how much oil, right? Because she said, well, I don't really got nothing in my house. I just got a little small jar of oil back at home, Chad. That's all I got. But watch what happens in this story in case you didn't know already, okay? Because you have maybe something you think is small and meaningless or worthless or not worth much. It's no big deal. It's just something you know how to do, something you picked up along the way of life, right? But it is the thing that is your oil in your house. It is the thing that I want you to understand. Oil typically is symbolic of anointing. There is something that God has anointed you with. There is a gift that God has already placed inside of you. Maybe it's something like me where you got the gift of gab, child. You could talk for days. But that is a gift I know came from God because when I speak, his wisdom comes out. Bam. So, what is it that is in your house? Once she said, want some little, a little something back at home, little bottle of oil back there, a little vial. He said, go into your house. He said, I want you to go around your neighborhood and gather up some vessels. Not just a few, as many as you can get. Get the vessels up. Let's go. Do you realize these were her multiple streams of income? They were about to be. And this is why I'm an advocate for Black women being in business. Become an entrepreneur. It can do some amazing things for you. Like what? Let's keep following the story. Okay. So now she is following the instructions that are coming from the man of God. So no, God didn't part the clouds and speak directly from heaven, right? But what he did do was work through somebody who could help her and guide her and give her direction and a plan on what to do. So now she's in her home, right? Behind closed doors, praying, right? And trusting. She's like, I don't know what's going to happen with this little tiny bottle of oil, but here we go. I trusted whatever Elisha told me to do is what God told him to tell me, okay? And what is so beautiful these days is the fact that although back then the Holy Spirit only came upon people on occasion, like Samson, right? With us today and under a new covenant, the Holy Spirit dwells within us. He's with us all the time. God promised us he would never leave us or forsake us. He meant that. So he can work directly through you as well as working through other people, right? But if you're not clear on what to do, why wouldn't you? Right? Why wouldn't you do what she did? And yeah, that's why I kind of see myself as Elisha sometimes. I can definitely relate. So anyway, she's in her house. She's starting to pour the oil into these vessels, all different sizes and a ton of them, right? Pouring, pouring, pouring. What is she pouring? The anointing, the oil that God has already placed in her house. It was already in her house. You have those gifts. You have an anointing already inside of you. Trust God so that when you are pouring out who you are, what your skill is, what your talent is, what your gift is, and you pouring them into these vessels, these different income streams. Maybe you're going to write an ebook. Maybe you're going to write a full book, write a novel. Maybe you're going to create a course. Maybe you're going to start consulting or coaching. Maybe you'll create a community, a membership. I don't know, jail. Maybe all of them, because you have as many vessels as you wish. And then check this out. When did the oil stop? Not until they ran out of vessels. She asked her son, hand me another vessel, hand me another vase, hand me another container. He's like, we ain't got no more. Ma, we done. Only then is when the oil stopped. The Lord will continue and continue and continue to supply until you say, enough. Overflowing with anointing is what you are. So, with that being the case, she then took these filled up vessels and she went out and she sold them. I don't know about you, but last time I checked, that's sales. That's a business. This woman literally started a business inside her home-based business, and home-based business, literally, and then took those vessels and sold them. You think God is against business? Why did he tell this woman to start one? It made any sense. And again, this was a problem. This was a financial crisis she was going through at no fault of her own. Right? Not only did they sell all the vessels, not only did she make a lot of money, but just like Elisha said, she made so much money that she had enough to pay off the debt and still had plenty left over for her and her family to live and live well off the rest. Because God is not focused on just enough. You need how much for the debt? Okay, I'm gonna give you the exact amount. Here's a penny, calculations. Okay, done. That's all you're getting. No, the Lord is not like that. Look at what Jesus did with the loaves of bread and the fish. Multiply, 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 multiply. But you know one thing that a lot of people don't mention about that passage? The disciples had to keep coming back. They had the basket. Jesus would fill the basket up. They would go and serve the people and come back to Jesus, let him continue to fill it back up. And then they go back and serve the people. We need to keep going back to Jesus. We need to keep going back to the Lord and let him fill us up, fill us up, fill us up. In the same way that this woman took a vessel, let the Lord fill it up, and then paused, got another vessel, went right back to pouring. Let him continue to pour into you. Let him continue to anoint you so that you can overflow with whatever that oil may be in your case. And when you do that, and you start selling these beautiful gifts and experiences and bits of knowledge and wisdom, when you start selling your vessels and you start making your money, where it is anointed by God, it is blessed by God, this is ordained by God, this is orchestrated by God. When you start doing that and you realize there's no way I can fail because he's given me the power to create wealth to establish his covenant. So why would he let it fail? Come on now, child. And then when you do that, when you simply allow him to show up powerfully in your financial life and in your business, he can do exceedingly abundantly above all that you could ever ask or think. And that's what happened with me. And in this channel, you're going to see there's plenty of videos where I'm going to talk about the many, many ways that God showed up and did exceedingly abundantly above all that I could ever ask or think in so many different areas of my life. When I thought my business was just going to take care of this one issue, it touched on so many other things, led me down different paths in my life to take me where I am today. It is powerful. And that is why with my framework and when I'm helping women with this, we focus on those three main passages of scripture. There's plenty of others that I do like to pull from, but those are my three framework scriptures. And that is 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 2-7, right? The widow. Deuteronomy 8:18, that God gives you the power to get wealth to, because people leave this part out, to be able to establish his covenant. Which covenant? Covenant of grace. And I got proof of that. Okay. And then finally, my third pillar, which is Ephesians 3:20, that he will do exceedingly abundantly above all that you could ever ask or think. And that's a beautiful life to create. So why are we trying to stay here? Now, am I saying that God can't do all of this for you right here in the United States? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that there's so much more because he did create this whole earth for you to be able to spread out and live on. And so just because we're here in America, born here in America, not by choice, it does not mean that you have no choice ever. And maybe now's the time in your life that you're going to make a different choice. As much as it was nice being here and you got everything you got out of being an American citizen, maybe it's time to move on. Maybe it's time to stop being a citizen altogether and renounce. Maybe it's not. Maybe you keep your citizenship, but you look for residency in other places. So I definitely wanted to tap into this because I've noticed that there's so many of us who are just now starting to have this conversation. We're just now starting to do it. And so I wanted to make sure that you understand there is a way, and it's a biblical principle. There's a way for you to be able to create a space that feels peaceful to you, both on the inside and on the outside in your circumstances and your physical environment. And if you are sick and tired with how the system is here, there are other systems in other places that you may prefer. And I'm going to tell you right now, with you just in spirit alone, like I'm going above and beyond just being a black woman. I'm talking about you, your spiritual self. You are a royal priesthood. It's time you get treated as such. It's time to get treated like royalty. Do you realize that people will look at you, a black woman, and they're no longer looking at you? Go to a different place and you're no longer experiencing somebody following you around the store wondering if you're going to steal something. They're no longer looking at you like, oh, are you a stripper? Because I've seen those rap videos and y'all never have any clothes on. You can go to places now where they look at you and say, look at this beautiful human being. That this black woman is seen and treated as royalty. And that's my mission. That is what I'm looking forward to. And I'm ready to take women with me on this journey. So let's do that. Let's go. Let's go. Listen, if all else fails and you don't like it, you can always go back. But what if? What if there are new and improved ways to be able to stick it to whomever you feel like you need to stick it to, whether it's the system or the man or whatever. But also, there are new ways. I shouldn't say new. There are alternative ways to create a certain kind of life and a certain kind of lifestyle. There are alternative ways to live a life of peace. And there are countries that you could live in where they're not talking about politics 24/7. They're not talking about race 24/7. It's not on a news cycle 24/7. And you could just be. Wouldn't that be nice? So if that kind of tickles your senses a little bit, right? Warms your soul a little bit, got you thinking a little bit, then subscribe to this channel because we're going to go there. We're going to go there. We're going to do this and we can do it together.